Hello, everyone. Welcome to our week 2 session of Photoshop. I'm so glad you all are here today because we have an exciting class where we're going to do one of the most important skills that you can possibly do as a graphic designer or know as a graphic designer, and that is beauty retouching and photo restoration. This is such a vital skill because you can use your beauty retouching and your photo retouching skills to make a little side income while you are in school at the same time. There's this great website called Fiverr.com, Fiverr. Maybe you guys have heard of it. I'm going to go ahead and type it in the chat. And a lot of students like to go up on Fiverr.com and set up a little storefront. And on their storefronts, they'll say, you know, I will retouch your photos for $5, or I will restore your old photos for $5. And so that's a great way while you're doing your schoolwork, while you're in school at the same time, to just have a little side income. And the benefit of doing like a little side job while you are in school at the same time is that when you graduate, you will have loads of previous work experience to have not only in your portfolio, but also have on your resume. So let's say you all graduate in 2021. So Stark Industries just asked, how does Fiverr work? If you go to Fiverr.com, you can kind of see right away how it works. What you do is you set up a little storefront on Fiverr.com, and you say that you will retouch someone's photos for $5. And then people go into your little store on Fiverr and submit their photos, and then you retouch them and you get paid $5 for each photo that you retouch. So that's why, and the reason I'm talking specifically about photo retouching is because that's what we're learning this week. So you can actually apply what you are learning to making money as soon as this class session is over. Isn't that cool? So something else that is, so I was going to talk about Fiverr.com is a great way to make money. Before I got sidetracked, I was talking about how you can leverage that experience that you have, running your own little freelance design or photo retouching studio. You can leverage that when you graduate to prove to potential clients and employers that you have previous work experience. So many people, when they graduate, let's say we graduate in 2021, many students will say, I don't have any work experience. I just spent the last 2 years in school. I have never worked in design. But students who are doing a little freelancing on the side, students who are, having their little side gig going, their little side job going, will be able to show that they've been working actually in the industry doing design work for the last 2 years. So not only are you graduating with 2 years of college, but you're also graduating with 2 years of work experience, which is really, really cool, right? So, so make use of what I'm going to be teaching you and actually apply it to maybe working a little bit and getting a little job. Now, next, what we'll talk about is week 1 stuff. Oh my gosh, your guys' week 1 assignments were so fantastic. Don't you? My little doggy just decided, this is actually the second class ever where she's just decided to hang out in the background and be our little mascot. I've been teaching here for like 10 years, and occasionally you'll hear her bark in the background, but no, she's decided to take a little nap back there. So cute. Okay, so we are talking about Oh, week 1. So you guys, week 1 assignments are so amazing and so good. Thank you so much for, you guys are great. Follow directions. You guys got your assignments in on time. And it's so satisfying to just go down the grade book and see A, all the way down the grade book. So thank you. I'm still in the process of grading. I know I've gotten all of your week 1 assignments turned in. I'm working on the assessments and the discussions right now, and they should all be posted by Tuesday morning. So I'll work through the evening getting them all done. And then now we're on to week 2. Yeah, great job, everyone. You all should give yourselves a pat on the back for coming out of week 1 with a solid A. I really, really appreciate that. And then we're going into week 2 with that. Just let's continue that momentum. A little note about week 2. It's not that week 2 is a hard week. It's just there is more information and there's more tools to use than there were in week 1. So week 1 was pretty basic. I'm sure many of you got the assignments done in about 5 or 10 minutes each, you know, not very difficult at all. Now we're doing beauty retouching, which requires a little bit more of an artistic sensibility. It requires you know, to have that eye of the artist. Is anyone having trouble hearing me at all? I just saw Brianna say that she can't hear me. Everyone else can. Okay. Okay, good. Let me know if at any point you have difficulty hearing me, because I don't know what, I can figure out what's wrong, basically. So yeah, week 2, we have a little bit more to talk about. There's a few more tools to use. So I invite you to please do get a piece of paper, get a pen or a pencil, and keep that handy. Be prepared to write down the shortcut keys, and also understand that Photoshop in many ways is like a recipe. And so you're going to follow the recipe that I give you step by step. And then if you follow that recipe, you will be able to be successful in having a assignment that completes everything. And the thing is, it's pretty specific with our week 2 work. It's very much like you kind of have to work on making your photos look the way that I make them look in the demo, and you have to use the same tools that I use. Use cone stamping and, you know, soft light and adjustment layers. And so if you decide to just retouch your photos using like the Gaussian blur tool or something, obviously those are not the tools that I'm instructing you this week. So I can't give you a good grade on that. So please do be sure to follow along in my demonstration. And then remember as well that I have multi-sessions on Tuesday and Thursday. And you can come in to the multi-session and show me your work, show me what you are struggling with, and I will be more than happy to assist you with, oh, it looks like Kristen's mic is on. Sorry, I'm trying to mute everyone. If you guys could, for some reason though, it wasn't muting. So if you could, just make sure that your mics are muted. I just accidentally hit the space bar several times, no worries. So be prepared to follow along with the instructions. And so, oh, Thursday is Thanksgiving, so I'm not going to have a multi-session on Thursday. And I will be enjoying a school-provided holiday Thursday, Friday, and through the weekend. So yeah, we'll just have the multi-session on Thursday. So go on, and if you need assistance, definitely definitely be attending the Tuesday, the tomorrow multi-session, that's a chance for you to get help from me. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you for reminding me. I completely forgot. So yeah, come in for help on Tuesday. And if you can't make it to my multi-session, we have so many other avenues for you to get help. We have the Student Success Center, where you can go 6 days a week to get help from our learning coaches. We also have other multi-sessions that other instructors are hosting, and those are posted in the announcements. And you can also, of course, email me or text message me, and I'll be totally happy and available to help you. Okay, so because there's a holiday, you know, gosh, you guys, I would just recommend, I'm sure maybe some of you are traveling for the holiday. Maybe you're heading out on Thursday or something, or Wednesday. Yeah, I just recommend getting your assignments done either tonight or Tuesday, and then coming into the multi-session on Tuesday evening, showing me your work, getting one-on-one help from me, and then get your assignment just turned in on Tuesday, and that way you could enjoy your traveling time on Wednesday. You can enjoy the weekend, enjoy Thanksgiving and Friday and the weekend, and you don't have to worry about your schoolwork. That's personally what I would do. So just a tip. So this week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about our retouching tools. Specifically, when we talk about retouching, we're talking about the spot healing tool, the clone stamp tool. Those are the two main ones we're going to cover in class. In my pre-recorded lecture, I go in depth on the patch tool and the healing tool. But in this session, we're going to talk about the spot healing and the clone stamp. We're also going to be talking about the adjustment layers. And in the pre-recorded session, I go through all of them. But in this session, we're going to talk specifically about color balance. And about the black and white, because you're going to use that for the assignment and the assessment. And we're going to talk about the hue saturation, the photo filter, and the color adjustment layer. We are also going to discuss the appropriate techniques for creating and recreating images in Photoshop, and those are the tools that basically we're talking about. Tools that recreate an image are like the spot healing and the clone stamp, because they put back what is taken away. They copy an image and you can fill in, and it uses like a little algorithm to create. You would use the tools like the brush tool, which we're going to also be using as one of our retouching restoration tips. Okay, so be sure, we're going to talk about a lot of tools today, guys. So be sure to get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and be sure to jot those down. So an important reminder, back up your files. Oh my gosh. So, for the until like December 6th, there's going to be a lot of technology issues. So do not be surprised if one day you go to turn on your computer and it just doesn't turn on. And this has happened to me multiple times, and I think this is going to happen with my current laptop, because right now the keyboard is not working. So I have an attachment keyboard, and I'm using my Wacom tablet. So back up your work. What does backing up your work mean? Backing up your work means that you not only have a copy of your file on your laptop computer, but you have a copy of that exact same file in another location, such as a cloud drive like Google Drive, or a external hard drive, which I personally like to use, because so you can, and I also backed up my stuff recently to my own Google Drive. So I have my stuff on an external hard drive, and I have my stuff on a Google Drive, and then I also have my stuff on this laptop. And so sometime tonight I'm going to be actually buying via eBay a refurbished laptop so I can have it as a backup while I get this laptop's keyboard fixed. So, you know, having a backup computer is really important. But if you do not have a backup computer, you can go to at your local FedEx office. You can go there and they have computer stations there with Photoshop on them. So if all of a sudden something chaotic happens and your laptop doesn't turn on and your backup computer isn't working, you can go to your local FedEx office, get your homework done there, turn it in, because it's also connected to the internet. So that is a great plan. You know, my FedEx office, I got one up the street. So I take my bike there and I go use that in case of an emergency. There's one in every town pretty much. So you can also go to your local library. But like I said, yeah, it's a little bit expensive, but the thing is, it's a backup. It's cheaper than buying another, you know, $1,000 computer. So strategy for success. Now, what's on this slide here is going to make more sense after I do my demonstration on the retouching. But when we're retouching, you want to make sure that all of your changes are on separate layers. And you guys probably now already know this from week 1, because I gave you that little cartoon about why it's important to have all of your changes on separate layers and to not merge your layers. So we've covered that already. Sorry, I'm just going through and stopping people's videos. So all of your changes are on separate layers. And this is what I'm going to look at when you turn in the PSD versions of your projects. I believe you're also turning in screenshots. You're turning in a JPEG and a screenshot of your layers. So we need to see those separate layers. Now, you guys know the eyeball icon in your layers. That eyeball icon, you can click it on to turn it on, and you can click it to turn it off. So you can see the before and after version of your photo. Show that before and after version to someone else who isn't you, and have them tell you, okay, does it look better after or before? And people say, well, the before picture, yeah, had a lot of blemishes on it, but the after picture is all blurry and blotchy. Then you know you just need to redo your image. So you want to make your photo look better after you retouch it than before. And you might be thinking, well, that's obvious, but you know, you'd be surprised. There's at least one student in every class who turns in a retouched photo that looks worse than the original photo. So please don't be that student, because it's awkward. It's like, you made her look worse. It's not. You made her skin all blotchy. You put her eyebrows in the wrong place. Her lips are now missing. Yeah, we're gonna have to redo this. So now you also want to view your project zoomed in and zoomed out, because sometimes, you know, the line from Clueless, she looks good from far away, but up close it's a total mess. That's what happens sometimes in retouching. You know, you might have, okay, when you're zoomed out of the picture, everything looks good. But as you start to zoom in, you're like, whoa, everything suddenly looks really blotchy and really bad. Or it could be the other way around. When you're zoomed in, it looks pretty good. But then, yeah, when you zoom out, you're like, oh gosh, actually, everything's missing. It looks like, have you guys seen the Jesus painting where an artist tried to restore a painting that like was kind of had like a scratch on one side, and then she repainted it and made him look like an Amish guy with like crooked eyes? That's the sort of thing I sometimes see from like at least one student every mod. They end up making this girl picture look like that Jesus picture. There's a great, someone did that as a Halloween costume, and it's pretty funny. So yeah, show it to someone else, and then for color correction, look at the highlights and shadows. So you want to make the highlights nice and white, not yellow, not pink. And when I talk about highlights, what I mean is the highlights are the light parts of the picture, the shines, the glossiness in the eyes, the teeth, the white of the teeth, the shine in the hair, the white of the shirt or the white wall in the background. You want to make those highlights white rather than yellow or pink or blue. And same with the shadows. Like the shadows are like the black in someone's pupil. If someone's wearing a black shirt, the black of their shirt, the shadows on them. You want to make those shadows black and not pink or blue or red. And you think, oh, that makes sense. You know, I want to make the white parts of my image white and the black parts of my image black. Makes sense. But the problem is when we are so accustomed to looking at our computer screen and just looking at one picture, our eyes adjust and we don't realize that we're actually making something look too red or too green or too blue. So you have to constantly, like after looking at your picture, then, you know, look at another picture for a second and then look back at yours and you're like, okay, actually, never mind. That made that picture way too pink all over. So these are the retouching tools that we're going to be talking about today. And like I said, in the pre-recorded lecture, I go over these two in depth. But here in our live class session, we won't have time. And also, they're not really that important. The ones that are important for our assignments are going to be the spot healing and clone stamp and the adjustment layers. And we'll talk briefly about blending modes. We will be using some blending modes, but we won't be going as in depth with them as I do in my pre-recorded lecture for week 3. Okay, so let's venture over into the classroom. And here we are in our week 2 assignment. And what we have here is we have 4 images. And luckily we don't have to retouch all 4 of them. We only have to retouch 2 of them. And in my pre-recorded lecture, I go in depth explaining how to retouch all 4. But for this class session, I probably will only have time to retouch 2, maybe 3, and then I have to do the assessment and demonstrate that. So we'll see how many we get through. So to download them, you just simply click on these links, and then the picture opens up in preview. You just, once they pop up in preview, you just close that out because we're going to open them in Photoshop. Let me share my whole screen. Okay, so we're gonna go to Finder, and this is how we open up our photos that we've downloaded. So here they are. Now remember in week 1, how we made a new file in Photoshop, and then we put things into that new file? That's not what we're doing this week. What we're doing is we're opening pictures that already exist. And we don't want to accidentally change the size of those pictures. So the best way to open them is to hold down the control button if you're on a Mac. If you are on a PC, you simply right-click and click on the file. Right-click, click on the file, and then click Open with Adobe Photoshop. So Control-click if you're on a Mac, and then select Open with Adobe Photoshop. Right-click if you're on a PC and select Open with Adobe Photoshop. Ta-da! There she is. Another way to open a file is to go to File, Open, and then go to your downloads folder, browse to the Harley picture, and then click open. Now this brings up one thing. There were 2 students who made this mistake with their wallpaper assignment. For a couple of you, when you made your new file for your wallpaper assignment, you went File, New, and then you had this button here that says Artboards checked, and then you hit Create. And this is totally not related at all to the week 2 assignment, but it came in my head, so I decided to talk to you guys about it. Don't have artboards on in Photoshop. There will be instances where you will want to have it on, but for DES104, it just makes things way harder than they need to be. And also, when you turn in things to the gradebook, instead of appearing to be the right size, they are then placed on like an 8x10 like canvas, and it makes grading a little bit difficult. So in the future, please, just for all of your assignments, make sure Artboards is not turned on. And hit close. Okay, so again, the way to open up a picture in Photoshop without changing the size or making a new file is to go File, Open. Write that in your notes, guys. File, Open. Then you browse to the downloads, click on the picture, and then click Open. And that is how you're opening your pictures this week. Now, another shortcut key that's going to be really, really useful for you. Command, if you're on a Mac, Command + zooms in, Command - zooms out. Command + to zoom in, Command - to zoom out. And so we're going to go back and forth a lot between zooming in and zooming out so that we can see what it looks like close up and far away. Then what we're going to do is also navigate around the picture. And if you have a trackpad working, which mine is not working at the moment, so I'm not using it, but if you have a working trackpad, you can place 2 fingers on your trackpad and move those 2 fingers around, and you will navigate around the picture. You can also hold down the space bar on your keyboard, which is what I'm doing now since I have a USB keyboard attached to my laptop. And then you can click and move around the picture this way, okay? So it's really important that we are able to zoom in and navigate around the picture like this, okay? Next, we're going to make a new layer, and upon this new layer is where we will put our retouching. So to make a new layer, we're gonna hit Shift Command N, Shift Command N. That makes a new layer. And then we're going to click OK. Shift Command N. Now, the tool that we're going to use is the spot healing tool. So we're going to go to the little Band-Aid. We're going to click on the spot healing tool. And then up at the top of the screen, there's this really important button that says Sample All Layers. The most frequently asked question I get from students is they'll say, I've made a new layer. I have the spot healing tool selected, but when I try to remove blemishes, it's not working, nothing happens. And the reason nothing is happening is because Sample All Layers is not checked. Okay, so please, 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 please make sure Sample All Layers is checked. Now, what you can do is you'll want to make your spot healing brush the same, like slightly larger, just like a smidge larger than the blemish that you want to remove. And so to increase and decrease the size of your brush, you'll hit the left bracket, and when I say brackets, I'm referring to the square brackets that are on your keyboard next to the letter P. So I need everyone to look down at your computer and find the letter P on your keyboard. And to the right of the letter P, there is a square bracket. The left bracket makes your brush smaller, and the right bracket makes your brush bigger. And so you'll scrub, 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 scrub. And that removes the blemishes. Yep, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing, Kristen. Those little square brackets. We're gonna make our spot healing tool just ever so slightly larger than the blemish that we're getting rid of, and then we're gonna scrub over it. And most of the time, it's gonna look good. But occasionally, let me do this. Oh, that turned out okay. Sometimes, let's say I wanna get rid of this line under her eye. See how I ended up making it look all smeared and smudged? Sometimes you can then go over it again and just keep on going over it until it fixes itself. But sometimes you might just end up overworking the thing and making it look worse. So let me find an example. There we go. That's a perfect example. So if you end up doing something that makes the image look really bad, like that, what you can do is hit the E for erase and erase, 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 and then try again. And usually the way to make the blemish better is to just use a little bit at a time and to make your brush really small. And the way I went from the eraser to the spot healing tool was by hitting E for eraser. Write that down in your notes, guys. E for eraser. And J is the spot healing tool. Yeah, you can Command Z, but let's say that, so Command Z is undo. Let's say though that you're retouching, and you're going along and you're retouching, and then you don't realize that you made something look really bad until like after you zoom out, and then you're like, whoa, that whole section of her face looks terrible. You know, then you can easily use the erase because you don't want to just undo 50 times when really like everything looks good except for that one thing that you totally. So yeah, there's two settings with the spot healing tool that you can play with. They are content aware and proximity match. Now, actually, usually I really like proximity match for this picture because the skin has a kind of a texture to it. And the proximity match kind of replicates that texture. So it ends up looking more natural. I find that content aware kind of blurs it a little bit. Content aware is really good for when you have something in the background of your picture that is really ugly. Like let's say you took a picture of someone and there's like a telephone pole in the background, or a you know, something in the background that's really ugly, like a car passing by in the background. And what you can do is use content aware and remove that pole or that car or whatever, and it gets rid of it really nicely. And because it's in the background, it's kind of blurry, so you don't mind that it ends up being kind of blurry. But also content aware is really good for like if you get like to a really difficult spot, and like proximity match likes to repeat things over and over again. Like it will accidentally, you know, put her hair in the middle of her forehead, and you're like, I don't want that there. Like, see how proximity match keeps on wanting to put like her hair in there? Then what you can do is, you know, use content aware. So Stark Industries said that they zoomed in too far. So to fix that, just hit Command minus sign. Command minus sign to zoom out. And you just keep on hitting Command minus sign a bunch of times. Okay, so we're gonna use the spot healing tool, little light spots right there, to get rid of the blemishes. And the blemishes, for me, I'm leaving her freckles because freckles are fine. I'm just getting rid of the things that look like pimples or swollen pores. And then I'm also getting rid of these little stray hairs. So I'd recommend that's what you guys do. So Shaunalee, for the purposes of this assignment, you're basically going to copy what I do. So you're getting rid of the pimples and you're getting rid of the stray hairs. See, like this hair is like on her shoulder and it looks really bad. So you're going to get rid of that because it's important that I see in your assignments that you are utilizing the skills that I've taught. So that's why I need you to show that you've used the spot healing tool in a way that I can clearly identify that the spot healing tool has been used, like removing the blemishes and stray hairs. And then also like the clone stamp tool and the other tools I'm going to be talking about in just a moment. So go down and for some reason, this is one of those Jesus picture moments. What's the name of the Jesus picture? Tender Mercies or something. So sometimes I'll occasionally get a student who like for some reason has like a really strong vendetta against shoulder blades. You know, again, this is probably like maybe twice a year. I'll get a student who hates shoulder blades. And so they'll like clone stamp her shoulder blade out of the picture. And I'm like, one, that looks really bad. Why would you get rid of someone's shoulder blade? And two, yeah, it just makes the picture look really bad. So don't try to erase her shoulder blade, please. She needs it. She needs to move her shoulder. So the next thing that we're gonna do is get rid of, we're gonna fix her eyebrow. So her eyebrow's going around long like an eyebrow should, and then all of a sudden, shoop, it goes up here. So we gotta fix that. So we're gonna go to the little clone stamp tool, which is this guy right here. And up at the top of the screen, this is where you can adjust the hardness of your clone stamp tool. And I'm gonna, it was fully 0% hardness. I'm gonna do like something closer to 50. And we're on a new layer, so we're gonna hit Shift Command N to make a new layer. And then this is really important because this is also a frequently asked question that comes up a lot from students, so pay attention. They say you have to have sample all layers checked. So there's a thing that says sample. There's a little drop-down menu that says current layer, current and below, or all layers. You need to have all layers checked, okay? All layers. Because in order to use the clone stamp tool, we need to be able to stamp part of the picture. And if all layers isn't selected, then you're stamping a blank layer and nothing is happening. So how does the clone stamp tool work? Oh, Christina's asking, should we name the layers to make it easier? Sure, yeah, if you forget what layer has what on it, just go ahead and you can double click on layer 2, for instance, and you can name it. Okay, now the way that clone stamp works is that you are copying part of the picture. So I'm gonna take my clone stamp, it looks like a little stamp, it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna use my bracket key to increase the size of my clone stamp. And this is just, I'm showing you how it works. I'm not suggesting that you use this technique. Okay, what I'm gonna do is go to Alt or Option, and then I'm gonna click on her eyeball. Oop, click. Let go of my clicker, let go of my Alt or Option, and see what I've done is I've made a copy of her eye. And so now I'm going to paint the eye wherever I want, right? So that is how Clone Stamp works. I'm gonna go to a part of the image that I wanna copy. I'm gonna hold down Alt or Option. Hold down Alt if you're on a PC, Option if you're on a Mac. You're gonna click with your clicker, whether that's the finger on the trackpad, your finger on the mouse, or in my case, my Wacom pen on my Wacom tablet. Click, let go of your clicker, let go of your Alt or Option button, and then you can paint wherever you want. So we are not going to use the Clone Stamp tool to paint eyeballs in the middle of her face. We are going to use the Clone Stamp tool to give her a little eyebrow shaping. So again, I'm going to make a new layer. And what I'm going to do is zoom in, Command plus sign, Command plus sign, Command plus sign, Command plus sign. And then I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option button. And I'm going to click on this area of skin that's right above her eyebrow. And I'm going to let go of my clicker, and I'm going to let go of my Alt or Option button. And then I'm going to bring the skin down, and I'm going to fix the shape of the eyebrow out there. Command minus sign, Command minus sign, Command minus sign, Command minus sign. There we go. So before, after. Perfect. So that is how the Clone Stamp tool works. Now we're going to get to something really fun. We're going to start to put makeup on her, and we're going to also start to do a little bit of lighting and things like that that are kind of fun. So first things first, I'm going to make a new layer, new blank layer. And you can make a new layer either by hitting Shift Command N or by clicking the new layer icon. And then I am going to venture over to the brush tool. And I'm gonna go up here to the brush settings, and I'm going to reduce my hardness all the way down to 0 and increase my brush size to about the size of her forehead. And you can use the bracket keys to adjust the brush size as well. So I'm making my brush about the size of her forehead. And I need to have white as my foreground color, because what I'm gonna be doing is painting as if a spotlight is in front of her. I'm gonna be painting light on her face. And what this is gonna do is help her make her skin look like it's glowing, and it's also gonna help to make her face the focal point of the picture. So right now, black is my foreground color. So what I need to do is hit the letter X on my keyboard, and that is now making white my foreground color. If you do not have black and white as your foreground and background colors, you can hit the letter D on your keyboard. D, not Command D, just D by itself, just hit the letter D, and that restores your default black and white foreground and background colors, okay? And so now I'm gonna hit X again so that I'm painting with white. And it's gonna look really funny at first, but watch, we're gonna do. So I'm gonna paint, 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 and I'm not painting over her eyes. I'm leaving her eyes bare, painting kind of down here. And so I'm just painting some light on her face. And right now it looks really weird because I have my blending mode on normal. But I'm gonna change my blending mode. Right now my blending mode is on normal. I'm gonna change it to soft light. And it's a little bit too bright right now. And what we wanna do, we don't wanna lighten someone's skin. what we want to do is we want to make it like the shadows on her face are softer, and we want to make her skin look more glowy. We don't necessarily just want to like make her pale. So what we're going to do is go to, right now I have layer 3 is my soft light, so that's before, after. I'm going to lower the opacity on this layer to maybe around 20. So before, after. So see how it kind of opened up her face a little bit. It kind of helped to make her face more the focal point. It helped to reduce the contrast of the shadows on her face. And I think it looks nice. So let's see so far what we have as far as before and after. And this is what I mean by clicking the eyeballs next to a layer. If you hold down the option button, you can click on the eyeball next to the background layer. And that's what the background layer looks without the layers above it. And that's what it looks like now after we've done our retouching. So option click before and after. Now we're going to get to some fun stuff. I'm going to make a new layer, Command +sign. And I'm going to add some lipstick. So Sylvester, I did not lock layer 0, the background layer. The background layer came and locked. And I would just recommend leaving it locked because it's, you don't want to accidentally like color on it or paint on it or, you know, mess it up, right? You want all your changes to be on separate layers, not on the background layer, because you always want to be able to go back to the original. So now I'm going to go to my lasso tool, this bad boy here. And I'm going to zoom in really close on her face. And I'm using the lasso tool to trace inside her lips. And it might take you a few tries to get it. That's totally okay. And I kind of missed this part here. So if I go up to the top of the screen, I can click on the Add to Selection button, which is the 2 squares together. And I can just add to it like that. And now what I also want to do is I want to get rid of the selection around the lip ring because I'm going to be coloring her lips, but I don't want to color over the lip ring. So I'm going to click on the Subtract from Selection option, which is the dark square intersecting the light square. So I clicked on the Subtract from Selection option, and now I'm going to lasso the lip ring. And now the lip ring is deselected from the lip selection. Now the fun can begin. So I have the lips nice and selected. I can then go to the adjustment layers, which are the circle that's black on one side and white on the other. It looks like a little yin-yang symbol at the bottom of the layer panel. You can click on that, and then you can click on curves. Next, you can click on this line and drag it down, and you can see now the lips are darkening. Now, the only problem, though, is the line is very severe. It doesn't look blended, and we want it to look a lot more softer and more natural. So I'm going to hit the X here, and I'm going to double click on this black and white square here. Is everyone with me? So this black and white square that's appeared when I added the curves layer, this is the layer mask. The reason this appeared is because I had selected with the lasso tool, I'd selected the lips, then I hit the curves adjustment layer, and then this came up, this black and white shape, and this is what this looks like. This is a layer mask. It's basically a stencil, and everything that's black is not affected by the layer, and everything that is white is affected by the layer. So now what I'm going to do is double click on this black and white shape here, and this brings up the properties window. And I'm going to increase the feathering, and see now how increasing the feathering softens the edge of the lips so it looks more natural and blended. And that changes the layer mask. See, now the layer mask is soft and blended as well. Okay, so now what we want to do is change the color of the lips. We kind of darkened it, which looks nice. So before, after. But we want to change the color. So I'm going to double click on this little yin yang symbol on the curves one adjustment layer. This is my adjustment layer, and this is the properties. So I just double click on it and it brings up the properties. Now in this properties window, this is where we can adjust the color. We can adjust, we can make it lighter if we want. We can make it darker. We can do all sorts of things with it. And now see where it says RGB? We can select the individual channels and adjust how light and dark those individual colors are going to be. So for instance, let's say we want to make the lips really, really red. We can click on the red channel and we can increase the brightness, and now the lips are going to look like cherry red, right? If we want them to be a little bit more green, we can make the lips green like this. So go a little bit red. If you go to the green channel and you decrease the amount of green, you can add more magenta. And now the lips are a little bit more magenta. If you go to the blue channel, you can increase the amount of blue and make the lips more purple. Or you can decrease the amount of blue and make the lips more orange. Okay, so that is where you can adjust the lip color. Pretty cool, right? Now for kicks, let's do the eye color. And we'll do a slightly different technique. So the first thing I want to do is brighten up the eyes a little bit. And so I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to go to my brush tool, and I'm going to reduce the size of my brush. And so now my brush is going to be only as wide as the sort of radius between the pupil and the iris, okay? And with my white as my foreground color, I'm going to paint. And doesn't that look weird and bad right now? So don't leave it like this. This is just step one. So step one is you paint the irises white. Step two, of course, on a new layer, everything goes on a new layer. Step two is you change the blending mode of the layer from normal to overlay. And so what overlay does is it sort of increases the contrast, and it also brightens them. Now, to be perfectly honest, this is not realistic looking eyes. You would do this if you want someone to look like a vampire, right? But this is way, way too bright. So I'm gonna lower the opacity. So now they're a little bit lighter before, after, but they're not like crazy bright. So now I'm going to go and make a new layer. And now on this new layer, I'm going to colorize her eyes to something different. I'll choose purple. So I'm going to give her purple eyes. And so I'm going to paint in the iris. Again, I'm not going to leave them looking like this. And then I am going to change the color from normal to color. And still, actually, I need to erase this little part here. E for erase, 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 erase. There we go. So if I were to leave them like this, it looks very unrealistic. Again, and please note that these are not on the normal blending mode. If this were on the normal blending mode, they would look like this. They would look flat and bad. And what some people do as a mistake is they'll leave the eyes on the normal blending mode, and then they'll reduce the opacity and call it good. Do not do that. Do not do that. That's very wrong and bad. Because if you reduce the opacity of the normal blending mode, it'll just look washed out and dumb. So we're going to change the blending mode from normal to color, normal and color. And then what we're going to do is change the opacity. Right now the opacity is at 100%. We're going to change the opacity to like 20 or 30. Yay, nice and subtle. So before, after, so slightly purplish pink eyes. And if we go option click, before, after, we glammed her up quite a bit. But it was fun, right? So that is how you can change someone's eye color. You can also do the same thing to change someone's hair color if you want. Just use the color blending mode. And if you need to lighten their hair, you can use the overlay blending mode and paint on white. If you need to darken their hair, you can use the overlay blending mode or the multiply blending mode and paint on black or like a darker color. But we have to move along. So the next thing we have to do is smoothen out her hair. And here's the thing. This next part where I use the liquify tool, you can either make things look really good, or you can make things look really, really bad. And honestly, I would much rather have you all turning in a picture that looks like this with kind of, I guess you could say her hair is kind of like shaggy, like kind of messy a little bit. So good face, messy hair will get you a much better grade than if you turn in good face and then like liquefied hair that does not look natural at all. Okay, so I encourage you to try out what I'm going to be demonstrating for you. Try out the liquify tool because you're going to need to use it in your career. Understand it takes an artistic touch, just like all of graphic design. It takes an artistic touch to get it right. It takes practice. If you do it once and you don't get it right, that's fine. You know, just keep on doing it. But if you spend like 20 minutes doing the liquify tool and you just keep making it look bad every time, then just turn it in like this, okay? With a good face and the shaggy hair. Okay, so now to use the liquify tool, what we're gonna do is merge all of the layers together. So without deleting them. So I'm gonna hit Shift Command Option E. That's 4 buttons at the same time. If you are on a PC, it's gonna be Shift Control Alt E. Shift Control Alt E if you're on a PC, Shift Command Option E. Shift Command Option E if you're on a Mac. Shift Command Option E if you're on a Mac. So 4 buttons at the same time. And what that does is it merges all of your layers together without deleting them. So you can see all of your original layers underneath, and then you have this merged layer on top. And we're gonna do our liquefy adjustments on this merged layer. So now I'm gonna go up to Filter, Liquefy, and I'm gonna go to the Forward Warp tool, which is, I call it the finger tool. And I'm gonna Command +. And I'm gonna make my brush about the size of her eye. Right, eye and eyebrow, like that size. And now I'm gonna place my brush halfway on her hair and halfway off of her hair. And I'm gonna gently push outward. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna create the illusion that her hair is full. And so it will kind of create an optical illusion that makes her hair look less shaggy because it is a more full. And see how it kind of pushes those little stray hairs closer together? So I'm just kind of pushing the hair out and then pushing this hair in and pushing this down. And I'm going to do the same thing for this side. Placing my cursor halfway on the hair, halfway off, gently, gently, gently pushing, pushing, pushing halfway. Do not accidentally, you know, liquefy her face or her eyebrow or her eye or brow ridge or anything like that. We're just kind of gently pushing. And, you know, you can leave this little stray hair out. It kind of makes things look natural and nice, or you can just kind of, I'm just kind of gently pushing it in. It kind of ruins the background a little bit. There's like a little smudge there. So I'm just kind of making her hair look a little bit more fuller, and then I'm going to click OK. And now let's see the before and after. Before, after. Before and after. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so the way that you're going to be submitting this is we're going to be submitting a screenshot and a JPEG. So Stark Industries asked, is there a way to fill in the hair down here? And I would say, yeah, you can use the clone stamp tool to make a copy of the hair here and then clone stamp it over here if you want. But I would say we've covered so much for now. Let's just keep things simple. You know, it's full, it looks nice, it's fine. If you want to experiment with using the clone stamp tool to fill that in with hair, you can. Another thing people do is like they'll find photos of other people's hair and like composite other people's hair onto like her head. But yeah, let's just keep things simple. We still have so much more to get through. So what we're gonna do for your submission is you're gonna be submitting a screenshot of your picture and all the layers. So see how I can see all the layers here in my layer panel? I need to be able to see all of your layers. I want to see that you are using all of your layers. So to take a screenshot, you can either hit Shift-Command-3, and that takes a screenshot of your whole screen, and it sends that screenshot to your desktop, so you'll be able to submit that with your JPEG. Or you can hit Shift-Command-4, Shift-Command-4, and what Shift-Command-4 does is it gives you these little crosshairs, and then you can select which part of your screen to take a screenshot of, and it sends that to your desktop. So Shaunalee, you'll have the chance to change people's hairstyles and such in your more advanced level classes. But for this class, let's just work on making her as pretty as possible, just using the basic tools. Now we're gonna also be submitting a JPEG. But first, you want to save the Photoshop document. Okay, you want to save the Photoshop document. You're not going to be turning the Photoshop document in, but you do want to save it. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. You want to especially save it for backup. File, Save As. And we are making a project on, or a folder on our desktop that says DES104 schoolwork. Good. That has our last week's assignments. And we are going to name this DES104 underscore week 2 assignment underscore your name .psd. It's very, very important that it has the .psd at the end of it. Layers should be checked and then hit save. So that PSD is what you're going to save and back up forever and ever. Now, what you're going to be turning in is the JPEG. So you're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web. File, Export, Save for Web. In this little drop-down menu, it says GIF. We're going to change it to JPEG. And then we're going to hit save. We're going to browse to our schoolwork folder and then hit save. And ta-da, that is our first assignment for week 2. Hi, Beth. So it's Shift Command Option E. Shift Command Option E. Did you get it? Cool. Okay, so the next picture is going to teach us a little bit about color adjustments. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and we're going to browse to this dude. And so just looking at this picture, there is too much of a specific color here. What color is there too much of? Yellow. Very good. So we're going to go to the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And we're going to click on color balance. And this is a 2-step process, you guys. So pay attention to 2 parts of this step. So step 1, notice we are on the midtones. See how this drop-down menu here says midtones? That means all the gray, skin color, medium values of the image. So we're going to drag our yellow all the way into blue. Now, in dragging our yellow all the way into blue, we find that we actually have too much red in the picture as well. So now we're going to drag our slider away from red, away from red, away from red, about halfway into cyan. The problem is we aren't done yet. There's still too much yellow. So we have to do a second step. Please, please make sure that you make a note about the second part of this step. So you aren't one of those, I'd say there's about 5 every mod who end up just turning it in looking like this. It's like you have one more step to do, please. So on the midtones, now we're going to go to highlights. See this drop-down menu here that says tones? And it was on midtones. Now we're going to highlights. Now we're going to drag our slider away from yellow into blue. Partway there. We still have the background is now very pink, and his skin is very pink as well. So we're going to drag our slider away from red into cyan and right about there. So we want the background to be white. Okay, now let's see the before and after. Before, see how flat this looks? After. Now see how it looks much more dimensional? That's what color adjustments can do. When you adjust the color correctly, when you make the blacks black and the whites white, things look much more three-dimensional. Now we also, as required, you have to use in addition to an adjustment layer, you have to use a retouching tool on this. So I'm going to use the clone stamp tool, and I'm going to select part of his collar here by going to Alt or Option click, selecting his collar, and then paint, 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 paint. And getting rid of that little tag using the clone stamp. Now that you guys have your fantastic retouching tools under your belt, you are more than welcome to practice, you know, removing things like the smile lines if you want. To experiment with doing a little bit of that. Totally, you know, not required. You know, you can start kind of filling in those a little bit. You can also, if you wanted to, shape his eyebrow a little bit. Got a little bit blotchy there. So that's what I think what happened is my hardness is at 100%. So I just need to kind of soften it a little bit. See, these are things that can happen. Okay, and the thing about getting rid of like smile lines is that if you just like leave it at straight up 100% and you just have no smile lines at all, it looks a little weird. So what you can do is after you've retouched and gotten rid of like the smile lines, you can lower the opacity of your retouching and just have them be kind of faintly there, and it ends up looking a little bit more natural. So just, you know, now we have before, after. So they're like subtly there, but not quite as much. Now you have to do a third retouching tool of your choice on here. So you're welcome to give him a little bit of lipstick if you want. You're welcome to change his hair color if you want. You can also, something that's kind of nice that I do sometimes is to flatten out the skin color a little bit, and not the skin color, like the skin texture a little bit, and make the skin a little bit glowier. You can go to this adjustment layer. It's black on one side, white on the other. It's the black and white adjustment layer. And what I'll do is I'll increase the reds all the way. And if I increase the reds and the yellows, you can see it kind of, we don't want to get the pixelated look, but we want to kind of increase the contrast a little bit. Problem is, it's looking very pixelated at the moment. And then what you can do is, after making it black and white and increasing the brightness of the skin, you can change the blending mode of this black and white adjustment layer from normal to soft light, and see how it kind of makes the skin look glowy. So before and after. And see how it also makes the hair look really dark black. Yeah, the cheek, I'm just noticing though, the cheek came through is super, super yellow. You can fix that pretty much though. If you go to, again, we'll just add another hue saturation on top of it. Not hue saturation, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Color balance, delete. So we can add another color balance on top of this. Go to highlights, and no, it's not highlights, it's actually in the shadows. Let's go to shadows. Nope. Where are you, yellow thing? Yeah, it's kind of in the midtones, but geez. We'd have to make him purple to get rid of it. Yeah, so what I would recommend, let's not do color balance then. What we'll do is we'll just lower the opacity of this black and white layer. And that kind of minimizes it. It's just, okay, he's just being lit by yellow, and we're just gonna have to make peace with that. There are some more advanced tools that we can use to get rid of the yellow, but I don't want you guys to obsess about learning those just yet, because I've already taught you so much. So look at the before and after. Like, we've clearly made him so much better. So you don't have to, you know, and there's a little bit of yellow there, but that's an artistic choice. So we're gonna now, remember, you have to take a screenshot of the layers. So you can hit Shift-Command-3 if you want to take a screenshot of the whole screen, and Shift-Command-4 if you want to take a screenshot of just a specific area. I want to see all of your layers though. And then we're gonna save our PSD. And Christina, don't turn your pictures to grayscale. I need to see that you use the color adjustments. And in the past, when students have just made their pictures black and white, it's like, well, I can't see if you did the retouching right or used things correctly. So yeah, I would say don't make them grayscale. So I'm gonna go name this DES104 underscore week 2 assignment E underscore your name dot PSD. And then we're gonna save the JPEG. And the JPEG is what you'll be turning in. So we're gonna go to File, Export, Save for Web. And we're gonna go to JPEG and then hit save. Alrighty, now we are gonna do, let's actually go back to the PowerPoint. So now that we've done the retouching and you see how it works, things make a lot more sense now. So now you know what I mean by putting all of your retouching on separate layers. And now you know what I mean by using the eyeball icon to turn your changes on and off so you can see the before and after and see how you made things better. And now you know how you can zoom in and out using Command plus sign and Command minus sign. And I definitely recommend showing the before and after to someone else. And now you know also what I mean by looking at the highlights and the shadows. So making sure the highlights are nice and white and the shadows are nice and black. Okay, Shauna Lee is asking, wouldn't the white pane glow you did on the other side picture work on the yellow chick? Okay, so if you were to paint the white soft light over that yellow part of his cheek, you would end up making that yellow part of the cheek look brighter yellow rather than like white. So what I would actually do in that case where color balance wasn't getting rid of a yellow on a certain part is I'd either use selective color or I would use the desaturate blending mode, which is what I use to whiten people's teeth, or if someone like has a picture of a black horse and that black horse has been like faded by the sun and it's kind of like reddish black now. So I use the desaturate blending mode to make that part of the picture black and white, and then I just recolor it in with his skin color. But that's a whole nother can of beans that we'll totally learn about in DES323. But for our beginning level of DES104, we don't have to get too picky about it, right? It looks so much better than it looked before, and that's what's important. I just want to make sure that you guys make that white wall in the background nice and white and not, you know, pink or yellow. Hey, you guys, the assessment is so much fun. You're going to love it. What we're going to do is do some really fancy color adjustments on a picture. We're going to use a little bit of masking like we did in the Harley picture to recolor something. We're going to do the color pop where we make something black and white and then we recolor just like a part of the picture. And it's pretty easy. So first things first, make sure when you download this assignment image, don't download the thumbnail, because then you'll just be downloading a small version of the picture, which will look really blurry and way too small to do anything with. Click on this link here, and that will download the full resolution picture. Let me share my screen.